So again, just happy Good Friday, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Hope everybody's staying safe and healthy out there today. Again, today's presentation is Trimble Field Link software with a focus on the software itself, menus and operations, a little bit about the reporting, and then we'll be doing a live demonstration. I've got about maybe 10 minutes of overall presentation first. And then Sean will start with the live demonstration. And then after that, Kevin's going to follow up with some pricing information. Further ado, I'll do some quick introductions. I'm Corey Bell. I'm the CEO and General Manager here at BuildingPoint Mid-America. And I'm going to be doing the introduction and then the closeout. So, Sean?
My name is Sean Thompson. I'm the VDC Services Manager here at BuildingPoint Mid-America. We do 3D BIM modeling, to laser scanning, as well as all the training in our VDC department. Kevin?
Thank you.
All righty then. Hi guys, I'm Kevin Kaufman, the Hardware Sales Manager for BuildingPoint Mid-America. That's all I'm going to throw out there right now. We'll get into more stuff here in a little bit. Thank you, Corey.
Very good. All right, thank you. So as I gave a quick outline, we're going to go through some Trimble Field Link introductions. I'll talk about the different modules. I'll talk about also some version 5.5 updates that just recently came out last month. We'll do a live demonstration where Sean will go live and he'll do a general introduction, walk you through the menus, pop-ups, and some of the tools that are within the software function itself. And please note that the tools that he's going to show you are the tools in both Trimble Field Link Office, which is the desktop version, as well as the version of software that you'll have on one of your tablets that I've got here behind me. And then Kevin's going to start, and he'll go through some data creation, some pricing, and also walk through a few tips and tricks that we've picked up along the way. As Sean likes to say, that those tips and tricks typically get lost or washed out as you train from one person to the next as you keep training people. A lot of that washes out. Then we'll do some Q&A like we did last week, and hopefully answer a few of your questions and move on from there. So Trimble Field Link Office, or Trimble Field Link itself, there are 3 different versions of Trimble Field Link. They are Base, Core, and Advanced. And then there's also different modules that you can add into that. So you've got the Surface module, the Site Control module, and I'm going to dive into both of those a little bit today. And then also next week, we're going to do a much deeper dive into Surface module and show you how that works, do it live, operate it live, show you what that gets, as well as we're going to do some more deeper dive into advanced reporting next week. So as you can see, there's a long checklist that I've got up here that compares Base, Core, and Advanced. This is one of the attachments in the handout, so I highly recommend downloading this. It's a 2-page PDF or 1 page if you print it front to back. There's a lot of options that are within Trimble Field Link, and we've got 3 specific examples being Base, Core, and Advanced, or samples, flavors, if you will. And it's just what the users use. By and large, I'll state that the majority of our users are either in the Core or the Advanced module, and you'll notice as we get to the second and the third slide kind of why. So as you go through this, they can all import and export, but being able to edit attributes, layers in the CSV, points in the export, that's where Core and Advanced really start to step away big time from the Base option. Also, when we go to the setup, all very similar. The biggest difference at Core and Advanced is it's got the panorama setup, and I know Sean's going to talk through that a little bit, so I'll save my breath and allow him to do that. Now, this is where we really get to why Core and why Advanced. This is a huge step away from what Base is. And this is, if you're going to be creating anything, line works, points, anything like that, offset points, that's where Core really starts to take a definitive step away from Base. And it starts to make it a lot more user-friendly, allow you to use a lot more tools. And then as we go into the next one, which is Compute, they all 3 do this. And all of these are the distance, the angle, the area, the slope, which Sean talked a little bit about last week. And I know he's going to walk you through those tools again today. So again, I'm going to save a little bit of my breath, but just say that's in all 3 of these features. And the reason that we're pointing these out is as we talk through these, Sean's going to hit a lot of tools and a lot of features that you might think, oh, mine doesn't do that. Just understand that there's other modules that yours may not have. And I also know Sean's going to walk you through how to identify what modules you do have, or rather should have by your licensing. As we continue and we dive into the layout slide here, so we've got layout, points and prism is your base, and all of them do that, but then you add in all the other tools and the other stuff that are the big, again, separators. One of them being laser layout, and I do want to point out with laser layout, it's not available on all the RTSs, and I know Sean and Kevin talked through that last week, but as we step away from that, I think it's specifically the 573 robot does not have laser layout. All the others do, but just keep in mind there's a couple of tools on here like that. And then where we get to a differentiator with advanced. Advanced used to be known as 3D feature pack. So if you can think of base and core as an X and a Y, and advanced adding the Z axis, that adds everything vertical from that. So being able to add wall layout from floor to ceiling reflections, and then also added tools like point list manager and things like that. And then as we continue to go through the collection mode, again, as you can see with the 3D options and things like that, being able to add lines and arcs to your layout at core. And then your map, biggest piece with your map is being able to have, they've all got pan, tilt, zoom, but being able to add in a little bit more, the panorama view, creating editing layers, 3D view and perspective view. So again, as I talked about with advanced, it used to be known as 3D feature pack, that adds that Z axis. So that's now your 3D. So being able to add 3D orbit and picture and perspective view to that. And then when we get to the vision tools, again, if your robot has vision, which is the camera inside of that, you've got the pan, tilt, and zoom, you got the panorama setup, you've got the image capture. One of the things that I really like about advanced here is the point and line overlay. So what that means is the image that you're going to see through vision from the camera coming at you from the RTS is it'll actually overlay any line work or points that you've captured in that space and allow you to see it through vision as well. So you can see where the point is supposed to be, where it actually is, or whatever issue you might have out in the field. And keep in mind, you can capture those pictures as images and screenshots and send those back out as a report. And then also I skipped through reports there. Advanced reporting on advanced feature pack is field reports and daily layout summaries as well. TFL surface module. This is one of the most underrated modules in my mind that TFL has had for the longest time, and nobody's really been beating the drum about it. But being able to shoot FF and FL on a floor with using laser mode, that's what that feature does. And as weird as that sounds, you can actually shoot an area, shoot your boundary, and the laser will go and scan the surface for you quickly within a few minutes and create a topography report of your highs and lows, as well as collect data points along that. So if you need to point back to that point, you can click on that high spot, shoot to it, and have it hit while the concrete's still workable. And you can do that both on a horizontal and a vertical surface. So it doesn't have to be concrete. That happens to be my example just because in my mind, watching a layout guy walk across that with mud boots and mess up what the guy just struck is somebody's probably going to get hurt or die at that point in time. And then the next one is site control module. So site control module is really kind of taking some of the old surveyor workflow and bringing it into Trimble Field Link. One of the biggest things that allows you to do is check control points, add control points. Essentially, as surveyors would call it, it was checking rounds. So this was shooting from one control point to the next to the other, and then double shooting them back and forth in a number of a series of numbers to allow that to say, okay, we're going to fluctuate for this system setup. You're set up along this side. And again, we'll dive into that a little bit more, but essentially, if you can think about it, it's and I think Kevin said it best, it's really a calibration for how your system setup is. So it's not a calibration of your system, but if you set your system up and you want to verify how accurate do I have it set up, you can allow that system to shoot that with site control module, and it just verifies that, you know, it adjusts for any levels, fluctuations and things like that within your system. Version 5.5 updates. So the version 5.5 was actually a massive update, although there's not a lot of updates that were made to Trimble Field Link in terms of layout. The bulk of the tools and updates were made to accommodate our new X7 scanner. For those that don't know, that does operate on the TFL workflow as well with the T10 tablet, but major updates for that. The other updates were related to the SPS 986, which is our newest GNSS rover, which I know Kevin talked about last week. But those were the major updates. They're not available for all the tablets that we sell out there, so it's only available for the current sale tablets. But a couple of really cool updates, a couple of minor bug fixes from there. So without any further ado, I'm going to quit talking for a little bit and let Sean start up here. And Sean, I think you're going to start with the workflow.
I am. Thank you, Corey. This is the same slide for those of you that joined our webinar last week. We're going to continue showing this to kind of show you what part of the world we're living in here. But generally speaking, you know, our workflow starting with the coordinated model, whether that has data prepped in it or not, or you're using something like Trimble Field Point or Trimble Field Link to prep that data. We go out to the tablet, out to the field for layout, and then do any reporting in Trimble Connect to share all the data. We do have a webinar coming up in 2 weeks on the connected workflow, which will do a little bit more about loading files and sharing across the platform. And then next week we'll also have the surface modules one where we'll get into the reporting. So we'll see some more on these as-built information and stuff. We're not going to see much more than that today. All right, so I'm in Trimble Field Link office here. So just a 3D model of a job, Trimble's virtual headquarters. What I'm going to do here is basically walk around. I'm going to start here in the bottom right and do a counterclockwise walk through here and pretty much try to go through as many buttons as I can in 30 minutes. So let's get started. So first thing is I'm a stickler on language and using the right terminology. The reason being is that if you guys go to the user manual, I want you using the right language so you get an appropriate result. So first one being that these, what I would call flyout, the user manual calls a zipper. So we'll pop open this zipper and we're going to go to the gear. Okay, this is our first option of settings to change within the software. If I zoom in on some points here so we can see what's going on, I can turn the names on and off. Okay, and turn the descriptions on and off. This is an electrical model for the most part, so your descriptions are the circuit number. So that's something you guys can use for the descriptions. You want elevations on and off, you can turn those on and off. Okay. Laid out points. Now I have some points in here that are red and green that have already been staked. If I want those to disappear off the screen after I have staked those, I can have those disappear off the screen, or if I want them to display. It's a user preference. I don't have a recommendation for you. I usually have them delete off the screen, but it's just a user preference. Okay. Next item up is the scale bar. If you notice as I'm zooming in and out, there's this yellow bar at the bottom of the screen. It's changing length, and the value inside of it is changing as well. And what that's doing is the length of that yellow bar equals the number that's inside of it. So right now, this about 1 inch is 2 feet of space. Okay. So as you zoom in and out, that'll change. If you wanted to turn it off, you could do that as well. Okay. Corner bullseye. This will allow the corner bullseye option to pop up where you have a button once you're in the layout mode, basically in the map of the layout mode. If you want that accessible to you to click and change to the bullseye, you can do that. Okay. This is a 3D model, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Notice I have the solid model checked. If I want to go to a wireframe setting, I can go like so. Also, if I want to change back to a solid model, but I want to change the transparencies, I can flip through the 4 buttons here. So then change its transparency. Just depends on what you're trying to view. Next item up is the background color, black, white. If I want to change the model to all blue line with a white background, I can do that as well, kind of an old school blueprint. And if I want to cycle through the background colors, I can do this like so, by clicking the cycle button down here. I tend to leave mine on the green background. Again, user preference thing, kind of works really well in the sunlight glare, but just whatever is easiest on your eyes. We also have 2 buttons here that have popped up in recent updates. These buttons here will, if I click this one, it'll turn points on and off. Okay. If I click this one, it'll turn the model on and off all at one time. Okay. Next item up for bid is the layers button. So we're starting to get some symbols that match the last little points and model symbol. So what I can tell right here is that layer 0 has points on it just by the circle with square around it, and then the square with squares around it is geometries and models. So I can tell that just by looking at that. So if I turn off layer 0, notice some points disappeared there. I can select all at one time, turn them all on and off here. I can turn them, deselect all of them here at one time. Add a new layer here. I'm actually going to cancel out of that. And then this button here, for those of you that have used AutoCAD for a long time that have Layer States Manager, this is where I can basically save and say, hey, I want to add these 10 layers. I only want this to turn on and off in this scenario, okay? You can add that. You can also search for particular layers. So if you're looking for points or something that have points on them down here, those are all your layer settings to turn those things on and off. The advanced feature pack or 3D feature pack, as Corey mentioned. If I click on this button here, I'll get a section box. I'm going to go ahead and add a section. Call it section box 1 automatically. This is going to allow us to now point and drag and actually section this down. So if I had a 13-story hotel, so to speak, I could get it down to floor 10 and floor 9 and have them all saved in here. You can also take the software like Trimble Field Link Office, set all this up in the office to where your field staff will just come down here and click on the appropriate section box for that day's work. You can also drag this way, drag it all directions, move it where you want, move it from the bottom up if you want. Point is, you can make yourself some different sections of your 3D model, okay? So add more, add a section name. Next item up for bid is the models button, okay? So notice I get a bunch of eyeballs over here. What this is allowing me to do is I have loaded multiple models in here. So you could only previously load one model at a time. Now you can load multiple, and I can come in here and click the eyeball and turn them on and off all at one time. So maybe you have phasing in models and you want certain things to be shown at certain times. You can set those up in here. Okay. Next item is the information button, just the eye with the circle on the bottom right. What this is going to allow us to do is come in here and select certain items, get some data off of them. Okay. So this one's a light. Its length is 2 foot 3 1/4, and its elevation is 10 foot 6 inches. It's a DWG, and then its layer is E-Light. So it's a little discouraging, some of the data that came over with this particular model that I had. So this would be where you would change your parameters in Revit and AutoCAD and get the metadata that you're wanting to display here. Maybe you want circuit number, maybe you want spool IDs, maybe you want cut links on pipe, elevation obviously you're going to want, length on a light doesn't matter, but it will on mechanical stuff. So keep that in mind. It may change the way you do your modeling a little bit to get the pertinent information for someone as the end user and installer to be productive or useful. By pointing and clicking on your screen, we can use this slider bar to zoom in, zoom out. Okay. I'm going to point out this button right here. This button right here is the Advanced 3D Feature Pack button. So not everyone's going to have this button. But this is going to allow me to get a top view here. If I get rid of my section real quick, I want to delete my section. Okay. Maybe. Maybe not. Okay. So either way, when I point and click with this button here, which is you, I'm pointing and clicking with my mouse because I'm Trimble Field Link Office, but you guys in the field are going to point and drag. Okay. So just pointing on the screen and dragging. And if I click to orbit, when I point and drag, notice it now gets in a 3D orbit. So a little bit different of a option in what you're doing. It's the same action that you're using as a user, but you're getting a different result on your view of the model and your perspective. So keep that in mind if it's spinning around a long way from you, or you get in this scenario, which happens all the time. Oh crap, I'm upside down. How do I get it back to the top, right? Well, first we have this zipper up here, which allows the flyout, which will take us back to the top view. And I want to get out of orbit here. Okay. There's also the isometric view that's set up here. Some preset views, the front, side, and then if I'm zoomed way in, I can come in here and zoom extents. Okay. Pretty straightforward there. Next item up is the measure tool on my top left. Okay. This is the quick access measure tool. So again, if you're going to search through the help menu to find where it writes on that, we need to be searching for quick access measure tool. Okay. So what this is going to allow me to do is not measure to the model. I'm going to measure between the points that have been created in here. So if I come down here to a couple of these points here, we'll work in this area, LT 49, LT 76, I get 10 foot 9 1/4. Now, I want to point out at the bottom of the screen to you, those of you that were in our webinar last week, we talked about HD and SD and vertical distance and then delta X, Y, and Z. So now you're starting to see those numbers pop up. And if you were in that webinar, you should know the difference between these two. Horizontal distance is not the same as slope distance. So keep that in mind and keep in mind what you're reading and what it's showing you, all right? Next item up is angle. So if I want to know the angle between this point, this one, and I'm going to pick this one for a reason because I see that they're stacked, which gets me this menu that pops up. So if you've ever seen this menu, the reason you're getting this menu in the bottom left is you have multiple points laid on top of each other. Obviously, these are at different elevations. So top and bottom of pad or something, top and bottom of flight. But that is why you get this menu, is that you have multiple points in the same location. So if I click that again, click 103, I now get leg 1 is 8 feet 11 1/4. Leg 2 is 4 feet 5 11/16. Gives me the angle of 143 degrees, 14 minutes, and 44 seconds. That could be valuable to you in the right scenario. Area. Area is pretty much same thing. I'm going to start clicking points. I have to do a minimum of 3 to get an area. Okay. If I want to keep adding 4 or 5, even come back in here, I can do that and get an area. Maybe you want to collect some data and get a cut fill and a volume. We can do that by coming down here and hitting our paper edit button. Let's add a depth of 8 feet. It's a deep pit, right? Okay. Now all of a sudden volume in the bottom right showed up. For those of you that were paying attention, that was grayed out beforehand. Now it's all of a sudden I'm at 17.75 cubic yards. I've got a perimeter and an area, all right? Down and out. Down and out, something I know myself as technical support for what we do here. I'm called about down and out pretty often, especially by plumbers or foundation people. What that's going to allow us to do is, let's say I'm going from C45, straight line through 49, but I want to go down to 75, and ultimately I'm trying to find a point out in space here, okay? So LT45 to LT49, and then down to 75. So it gives me a down and out calculation of 45. I'm going down the line 17 feet 11 and 7/8 inches, and then I'm going out 4 feet. So you can find this arbitrary point out here. Now it happens to be where that light fixture is, but you get the idea, okay? So that's it for the general settings. Now I'm going to go into each mode here. We're going to go into create, where we're going to go to create all the data, and I'm going to go through as many buttons as I can get to, and then we'll kind of skip over measure real quick. Devices, where we're going to device was more covered in last week's webinar. And then we will go through more really quickly, okay? So first and foremost, when I go to create, I get a list of what I call commands here. Plan work, line work, point manager, and so forth and so on. So first I'm going to go to plan view, okay? Plan create mode. First thing I need to do down here is go to my pen and paper. I'm creating points in a plan, and I want them to be 10 feet apart, right? 10 feet apart. I want them to be FC1, and I'm going to put a description of field created for whatever reason, okay? Now when I come in here, maybe off this LT51, I want to point at a 45-degree angle out here at 10 feet, right? So notice it gives me a blue dotted line, which is showing me where it's proposing to create this next point. I have the line clicked as well, because it's going to create a line in between that. I'm going to turn that off for the sake of this discussion, so I'm going to add a line later, okay? So if I rotate left, I can rotate 45 degrees. I can rotate right, 45 degrees. There's presets of 30, 45, and 90 in here. If you want to go a unique angle, you can come in here and type it, 16.1673 or 22.5 or whatever that weird angle is. You can also type it in here, okay? If I create this point, okay, now all of a sudden I get a point there. I'm going to go ahead and click the line this time and hit create, and just show us a difference. If I unselect down here, I will get the line to remove. So I created point 1 here and created a line between point 2 just by creating them from plan view, all right? You can always come down here and undo as well. So I'm going to use these as examples. So I'm going to keep going. I want to create line work, okay? So this should be is when I'm in just create line mode in the bottom left. It should be as simple as pointing and clicking 2 points, create a line in between them, just like so. If I want to create an arc, the first thing it's going to make me do, because everything's grayed out, is come down to my paper and pen. And I am going to pause here for just a quick second and want you guys to realize that there's a theory and a theme to this. As I go to create mode, I should go down and hit the paper and pen first and give it the parameters of what I'm trying to create. So in this case, I'm going to do a radius of 10 feet, all right? And I'll pick, hopefully, these two and give myself a radius, okay? So now I'm using the short portion of the arc, but I can go to the long portion if I want by switching there, okay? And then I can flip it left, flip it right, okay? So you have options to create these things this way. I'm not actually going to create these because I don't want to clutter up my model here, so I'm going to move to the next one, which is basically cutting segment lengths of a line that you've created that's in here. I can come down here to my pen and paper. I have a recycle button here, which is going to change from segment length to number of segments. If I only want it to be 2 segments, I can then come in here and have it switch to 2 segments, okay? 2 segments, okay? The cycle button, if I do it right, it's going to switch my start position, okay? So you can create, you know, chop up your lines into segments of any kind. If you're doing something, maybe you are having a line that's along an arc and you want to split it up at every 4 feet for the concrete forms or something, you can do that as well, okay? Slide work, point manager. Point manager is pretty important. I'm going to come in here and just click on this button and hit this right down here to get delete, okay? The reason I'm showing this to you is I don't get a number under here, but if I get delete, it comes up and says I deleted 1 point. I'm going to undo that for the sake of discussion. But if I select 2 points, I get 2 points down here. And I want you guys to notice the difference that you don't get that notification until you've actually deleted them. So pay attention to 1 versus 2 or more points, all right? You can also use our button here. Let me unselect these by using the no symbol down here. I'm going to clear all points, yes. I've got some new buttons that popped up here. These are selecting all points or all, you know, all in a window. Point all my view, which be careful when you use only in the right scenarios, and then unselect anything or unselect down here. Right now, I'm just in a point and click mode, so I can just point and click and create a point. Okay, I'm going to undo that. I want to do an offset. Okay, so those of you that have a PDF that you bring in, and maybe it's a ductwork or plumbing or something, and you want a trapeze hanger, I want to trace over a line and just start creating points, right? I can click this line like so. Again, get into my parameters. I have an offset of 1 foot, so it's 1 foot offset on both sides. Interval is every 6 inches. Obviously, I am exaggerating something here. I don't know where you'd ever need that many points in a short distance, but its start distance is 2 feet off the end. Okay, so if you wanted to start your hangers 10 inches off the end of a pipe or duct, you could do that, right? I have left, right, and then I can cycle my start from top to bottom with these buttons here. If you just want to do single mode, you can do that as well by creating a single point, okay? Just out here on the offset on the side. Or multiple, doing them down the multiple points through your offsets, okay? Same thing applies for arcs here, okay? Same buttons, inside, outside, left, right, you know, toggling both directions. I'm going to skip that one real quick. This one's pretty important. I will bring this to your attention, but this is center wall, so this can actually be applied to any geometry in your model. I'm going to simulate this with 2 pieces of pipe here. Okay. Let me unselect them all. So I'll select line, select 2, and then wherever I click between these 2 lines, right there, it gives me the center point to create. Obviously, I have the edit button too to change its name and do that thing. But maybe you have a CAD or BIM department that provided points for you, and they provided 20 stub-ups for electrical or plumbing, an electrical room or a plumbing pump room or something like that. Maybe you only want to put points at the center of the wall on the corners or something and not lay out 20 points, only lay out 2. That can gain some efficiencies. This is a tool that will allow you to do that, okay? Creating from model is the next item. There's really only a couple of things I'm going to point out on this one. I'm going to get up in this corner. 10 points. And I am going to use my window now to kind of show you what's going on. But if I click this corner, notice I get 9 points down here. Okay. Now in reality, maybe I was only looking for 2 points, but if I come back up to my 3D orbit button, I can scroll this way and look and see what the problem is. See how I'm getting all these vertical points. That's why you got to be careful when you're picking windows or picking all in view. So if I do this real quick and pick all in view real quick, I want to show you that real quick. This is what you're going to get. So those BIM directors out there, you're not going to get away with sloppy models anymore. So pay attention to those things. I'm going to unselect all this. If I just come point and click and get an endpoint, I can do that as so. Circles, come out here and get the center point of a circle just like so. Now I can hit create or undo. Okay, create, undo. All right, next up is grid. Grid can be pretty important to you, depending on what you're doing, where you're going. I'm gonna pick a point down here. Maybe. And get somewhere where you guys can get a good view of this. All right, so I'm gonna pick this point here. Notice it's giving me a preview of a grid. All right, so I'm gonna say 10 rows, or 10 columns by 10 rows. Let's do 8 feet by 3 feet. Okay, where would you need this? Where I would need this, I've used this a ton before when I wasn't done with my federated model in mechanical rooms or electrical rooms, and I wanted to grid the room on an 8-foot by 8-foot pattern that would allow me to put embeds, unistrut in the deck or whatever, so that I could still continue with my modeling, still continue with everything, but the grid would still allow me to use something in the field where I still didn't lose my opportunity to get bangus or embeds in. Okay, so be sure you add the grids here and there as necessary when you're in the right scenarios. Next up is patterns. Okay, basically patterns is something that's going to be a very repeatable object for you, whether that is VAV boxes or anchor plates or gusset plates, something like that. You can come in here and edit it and tell it where you want the rows and spacing, or we can come here and click, say, hey, I want to point offset 1 foot everywhere, right? I'm going to add those points, okay? Then I'm going to come down here, I'm going to save this pattern, we'll call it pattern 3, whatever, okay? And I'm going to come over here and click on this one and select my pattern. I'm going to go to pattern 3 I just created, and I'm going to load pattern. Notice now I get that arrangement of 4 bolts in reference to my center of my grid. So I'm getting the same buttons again, 40, 35, 90. I can rotate this thing, rotate left, whoops, 90 degrees. Rotate left, so on a 45, I can get that way, get this way. So those of you that have standards and control points as well, you know, you always offset from the center, say 24 inches. You can come and make patterns for those. On that note of patterns, I'm going to show you where Trimble Field Link keeps all of its data. On your computer, under Documents, Trimble Field Link folder, you get Jobs. Okay, Jobs is where all your folders lie, and when you manage and import and export, this is where it's all going to go to. The exports are going to come to these exports folder, but all your jobs are going to live in there. Patterns go to here. Okay, reports are here in their appropriate place, images, and exports. Okay, so now you know where that's at. All right, so that's it for patterns. Measure, I'm not going to spend very much time here, maybe 20 seconds, but that's where you're going to go once you're connected to the robot to do your layout, collecting data. If you're working with reference elevations and you're putting points in your center of round or in your corners of rectangulars going through walls, you can do wall penetrations. This button surface module here, we'll go to our surface module, one that's in 2 weeks, I believe, or next week. Laying out to a plane. I will spend a little bit here. This is very important. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. But you can select anything in here to use as a plane, whether that's a ceiling, a floor, even just a mechanical pad. But where else you can use it is on sloped plane, just by defining angles and size and direction, or by using 3 points in here. Don't be afraid to use this in a parking garage ramp. Anything that's not supposed to be flat, okay? Any surface not supposed to be flat. Traverse, this kind of goes into the settings that Corey was talking about with site control, and then settings. I am going to hit here for a second. Horizontal tolerance, this is the staking settings whenever you're in your robotic layout, right? So anything within a quarter inch is going to be okay. I'm ignoring the vertical until I deal with reference elevation and deal with the verticals, okay? Those can be changed anytime. And the next item down here is layout, the bottom right. Now, do you want to lay out, once you stake that point, you hit the next button. Do you want to go to the next button or next point and number, or do you want to go the nearest your current location? So just keep in mind how you want to do that. 99.9% of the time, I leave mine on nearest. Some laser settings. Those of you that were in last week's webinar, be sure that fast precision for layout, high precision for control points, okay? Device, where we go to connect to the device. And then finally, the more mode, which is more. Map takes us to a home view that isn't in any commands, okay? Jobs, okay? So jobs, we're going to go to manage, we're going to go to import, export, and going to go into some settings. I'm not going to dive into these too much today, except for manage. Notice I'm grayed out here on my cloud base, okay? More jobs, importing and exporting, and then we will go into settings. So when you guys are taking measurements between points and you want to know the tolerance of those units, that's set down here. 16th, the most tight you can get it. You want to change the coordinates. If you like working in these Z's, you can do that, the X, Y, Z's. It doesn't physically change the model. It just flips the X and the Y. So it reads to you differently. You want to change the temperature unit or the language, you can do so here. Those of you that got to a bad setup, this could be a pretty good button for you here, clear layout flags. Notice I have some that have status on them. I'm not going to clear them out because I want to save those, but if I wanted to clear the layout flags because I was off a foot or something, I found that there was an issue with them. I need to relay them out. I can clear out all those layout flags there, okay? Trimble Connect. Trimble Connect, those of you that are users now, pretty much everybody in the world can have a free account. So you get one free project, you get up to 10 gigs. So be sure to use that cloud-based service since it's free to you. Use it to assign and basically transfer files from the office to the field. We're going to do a whole seminar or a webinar on that in 2 weeks, so I'm not going to spend too much time there today, but I am going to go ahead and sign in just so that when I go to my jobs mode and manage, you'll see that my cloud now becomes available and I can load all my Trimble Connect projects, okay? And I have some favorites saved here by hitting the star. Okay. About menu, which is pretty important. I know Corey hit on this earlier. There's a lot of information in here. First and foremost is version. All we really need is those first two numbers, being 5.5 or first 3 digits, 5.5. The rest of it doesn't really matter to us, but if you're on 4.2 or even as old as 2.4 or one of those versions, okay? Licenses that are available to you. So these are all the modules and the features that I have available to me. And there's some information that we may ask from you if you call in with a technical support issue. The tablet serial numbers, how Trimble tracks all your licensing to your tablet, so we may need that number at times, when your expiration is. And last, or towards the end here, is log files, okay? It is tracking everything you're doing, so when you're packing the screen like this, it is logging all that. Those can help us tremendously in the right technical issue. So we may ask you to go there sometime and email us those log files. Next is to minimize the screen, just by minimizing it like so. And finally, and this is the end of me, and I'm going to exit out the back door.
Excellent. Okay, and so we're going to bounce right to the field layout and data creation, just some topics of discussion. We can do that in the office, or we can do that right on our T10 tablet. Just as Sean kind of showed you there with the Trimble Field Link Office, you can make that purchase. It's around $750, and what that's going to do, that's going to provide someone in the office, it's a single user, single seat, that's going to provide someone in the office or the field personnel in their field office, whatever, the ability to load that Trimble Field Link Office emulator on their tablet. Okay, so it's on their laptop. So what Sean just showed you is what they're going to have the functionality of, okay? So you can use that to go in there and QA/QC data and models and things like that before you kick those out to the field. Additionally, your guy in the field's having some trouble with some sort of data or something, he can ship that back to you through Trimble Connect that we'll talk about at a future webinar in more detail. but he can kick that back to you. You can bring that in, and you can do some checks on it to see what's going on. So it's for $750, it's a really good value in terms of the functionality and things that you can get and share with your field guys. Okay, then Trimble Field Points is the plugin for Autodesk Revit products and things like that. So you can go in and you can create data in mass using families and things like that. So instead of one-off, each individual point, as Sean was demonstrating in the Trimble Field Link software, you can go in there and create points much more efficiently, effectively, a lot quicker, okay? So then something else we've got there is that you've got software support and maintenance that applies for those Autodesk updates. So that's something that comes in there. So we also have create for other software. We can create data from Trimble SketchUp, Tekla structures and things like that, third-party point creation software. So there's ways to do that. And then additionally, you can create it just on the field tablet. So there's other ways that we can manage and get that data into the tablet. For instance, if you've got a CSV file that you maybe received, sometimes we get those from surveyors or from engineers. They might create that data some other way and then kick that to you. We can obviously do an import and bring that data right in, and we're ready to go. All right. And so some of the different versions that Corey spoke of earlier, we have Trimble Field Link Base, and then by getting the base, you're going to save about $1,000. And this is not the salesman in me. I think if any of you guys know me, I'm not what would be termed a hardcore sales guy. I don't go for the jugular right off the bat. Somewhere around, third or fourth conversation in, I'm on your throat. But what I'm trying to say though is that for the $1,000 that you're upgrading to get the core, I believe the value is certainly there, and I don't care how simple of your workflow that you've got. Even the foundations guys, they can go in on the fly on that tablet and create a lot of that data that they need. So you're looking at around $1,000 to get to the core, and then to get to the advanced and the feature pack there, we also got advanced reporting features, another $2,000. And I'll be honest, the advanced is probably as popular or nearly as popular as the core, depending on what your user needs are. And here's the thing, you're not going to get penalized for upgrading to the next feature, next feature pack. So if we need to do that, let us know, and we can work with you on that. Surface module, Corey mentioned it. You're talking about a $500 price tag on that. Certainly a good feature for those guys that are maybe the concrete guys that do a lot of flat work and things like that, or some of the walls. You can use that surface module for that, and you're going to get a lot of value from that. It's a quick QA/QC. If we need to adjust, maybe do something to the concrete, work it a little bit more while it's still green, we can use that function for that. So it's going to help you out with that. It's pretty cool stuff. We're willing to show you how that works. The site control module, again, if you fancy yourself the surveyor from old days, like Corey said, we've got the round feature in there that's going to kind of average out some of the angles so that we can take multiple shots in the same shot. The scope is going to point and another shot in the same point again, kind of average those angles, as well as the other functionalities that Corey mentioned, again, $500. And then the software support and maintenance, that is really, there's a good value there. As those bug fixes and feature updates come out, you'll want to be able to take advantage of those. We are tethered to Windows and Windows 10 operating system. So because of that, every time they do something in the background, quite naturally, just like a lot of the apps that you got even on your iPhone or whatever, you've got to get those bug fixes, and that's what this is going to do for you. And then tips and tricks, we like to hit on this when we do our webinars, just to try and give our customers and prospective customers some other things to think about when we're setting up a project. Remember, we can do that in a couple of different ways. One way, something as simple as just putting the model or the data on a thumb drive, plugging it right into the USB port on the T10 tablet, and go in there and create a project. Of course, we also mentioned you can also set that project up within Trimble Field Link desktop office software. And by doing that, you can save that down and get that to your field guy. He can then open that right up, and he's going to do one click, and it's going to open that project up just that you saw it on your desktop. So that's one way. You can also take that thumb drive, and you can save that down into the local Explorer tablet Explorer folder that's on your tablet. So you can put that in there, and it's going to show up in the documents in there, and you can go in there and open it up using the Trimble Field Link software. And then, as Sean demonstrated, you can bring that project in using Trimble Connect. So when you've got somebody that's maybe 2 hours away, you can save that project into Trimble Connect. They can bring that down locally on the job, on the fly, bring that right into the controller and go to work. Entering points. We talked about some of that already with Sean, the way he was talking about it, but you can manually enter those points by going into the point manager. And if you've got the data, maybe you've got a control point that you're going to add in that a surveyor or someone supplied you with, you can go in and manually in that little pencil and paper and just manually enter the XYZ or the NEZ information in there, and it's going to show up on your tablet. So there's different ways. Again, I've already mentioned the CSV. You can import those points with the CSV. Different ways you can do that, and obviously using the Create tab in the Trimble Field Link. Best practices. When we say best practices, we're really going to stress that you can do a resection, a 2-point resection, and by doing that, you're going to be able to accomplish a system setup. We recommend at least three or more points for that resection setup. What you're going to see is that if, for instance, maybe you're using a column line intersection as your setup, but for whatever reason, that snap line that you're using as your setup, it may be rotated just ever so slightly. What you're going to see is all the data that you're out there trying to lay out is going to be rotated slightly. So because of that, when you can use that third or fourth control point, bring that in, you're going to get rid of that rotation. It's going to snap to that new location and get you a much better solution for your location, okay? So that's a best practice. Some of the other things, we want to make sure we take care of our prism poles. We want to make sure that we're checking and making sure that those are in good plumb. Those things do get out. We don't want to use that prism pole as a strong arm or something. We don't want to throw it in the back of your truck. We want to take care of that gear. We want to make sure that we've got our robotic total station. A lot of my customers, I stress that, and we stress that in our training, a lot of our customers, they put that thing in the child care seat, or they'll put that thing in the seat belt in the back of their truck. They don't arbitrarily throw it in the bed of their pickup and then let it bounce around. If you take care of this investment that you've got in front of you, it's going to take care of you. That's an old cliche, but it's true, okay? Maintenance, we really like to stress maintenance along the lines of that instrument. It's going to take some beating, a little bit of licks every now and then. We encourage you at least once a year to go out and get that thing cleaned and calibrated on the bench at a service dealer, okay? We can always do a field calibration. We can always walk you through that process. It's a 2 or 3 minute process. Some of our customers will do that once a week. Some of them will do it less frequently than that. That's at your discretion. That's a quick little field check, but we do recommend you get on the bench at least once a year, a lot of times once before every large project, so you've got confidence that instrument's running accurately, and you don't have to worry that that's the problem. If something else is showing up as an issue on the job site, we can rule that one out because we just had it calibrated, all right? Then we like to bounce into naming conventions. We get a lot of questions on this a lot of times. If you can just naming conventions and numbering systems, if you can develop that within your company, I can't point to one standard that's out there and say, this is a recognized standard for naming conventions. That's not really been published, okay? But if your company can develop their own standards, that way if your user goes out and gets hit by a big red bus, you've got your backup guy. He can go into the tablet and he can recognize those naming conventions, those standards, and know what's going on in the project. For instance, in your point number right there, you've got a maximum of 15 digits you can use in that field. So we're going to say that you've got a lot of flexibility there for your naming conventions, right? So in this instance here on this slide, you're seeing that we've got CP01000. That's the name of our 1000 control point. As we follow it over, you can see the XYZ there with the data in there, the description, control point, or you can just put CP, whatever you want. That's going to show up on your screen when you turn that information tab on. And then layer, you can put that in the control layer. Going back to the tips briefly on that layer name, with something that you can do to make that layer pop to the top of your layer list is that we can put like an underscore CTRL, or we can put some sort of a symbol in front of it that will automatically pop that to the top of your layer list when you're in there looking for something. So if you've got 87 AutoCAD layers that are in there, yours is going to pop to the top, okay? And then we've got anchor bolts is another example, AB2100. That might be your point number. Your description is anchor bolt, and then your layer is AB. So that's some of the conventions and some of the naming ways that we've seen things done, and that some of our users, Corey and Sean, have actually used in the industry when they're going out and doing things. But that will tell you as an identifier, AB2100, you know that's an anchor bolt number 2100, and it's identified within the model. All right, so there's your naming and numbering conventions, but they need to follow that standard. And if someone can start developing that early on so that we're taking those through projects, even to the point to where you develop your own internal document that you can share with your users, you're going to be better served for it. So then we've got some other resources that we'd like to point to. And we talked about this at the end of our last webinar. We've got bpmidamerica.com. We encourage you to go there. We've got links, we've got videos and things, and we're creating new videos and putting those up there. You can get to those there and other resources. So use that as a helpful resource. Learn.trimble.com. If you've not done that yet, you can have your users go out and create their own profile on that website. That's going to provide them with access and links to other user videos that are out there that are going to help them tremendously during their downtime. If they just want to get sharpened up and sharpen their tool set a little bit, there you go. YouTube, you can go out there to BuildingPoint Mid-America. We have our channel. We've got videos. We're uploading new videos all the time with things that we think that are going to help our customers and users out there, okay? But you can also schedule an on-site training with our certified trainers. We've got those in-house. We will come to your job. We will import your model or your file, and we're going to train you and your job trailer, whatever we need to do. We're going to customize that training to your needs. Make sure you're going to get the most out of that. So that's another source for you. Trimble Field Link User Guide, PDF, is on the tablet surface, all right? Make sure you don't forget that. Go out there and double tap that thing. It's on the surface. It's a PDF. No need to be on the internet. You can flip through it. There's a search window by keywords. You can go in there and look exactly what you're looking for, and you should be able to answer some of your own questions if for some reason it's a weird circumstance and you can't get a hold of one of us. Also, we've got building.trimble.com there. Go out there and look at that. There's also more resources on that site. And then, we are on LinkedIn, BuildingPoint Mid-America. Find us. We're always uploading things on there. Follow us, and we're more than glad to help you guys out. Closing out my portion here, again, I want to introduce myself. I'm Kevin Kaufman. I am the hardware sales manager. I primarily work in Kentucky and Tennessee, although I do travel throughout our service area. I've been out, and I've got some customers that I've worked with before out in all of our other states out there. You see my contact information on there. If there's ever something that comes up, you've got a concern, a question, get a hold of any one of our sales guys. You see Bob Groen there in the middle. He is responsible for Missouri and Arkansas, so Bob is throughout that area quite a bit. He's getting really, really good with this gear, so he knows what he's doing, so he's a great resource for you. And then we've got Charlie Kim out to the West Nebraska and Kansas, okay? So Charlie we all pride ourselves on being customer-friendly and responsive to our customers' needs. So give us a call, text us, email us, whatever you need to do, and we're going to try our darndest to get right back to you. We've got a billion-dollar company behind us. So if we don't know the answer, somebody behind us does know the answer. And again, if you are not specifically in our service territory, still reach out, and we're going to make sure that we get you in touch with the right people that you need to be talking to make sure that you're taken care of. Corey, take it away.
Very good. Thank you, Kevin and Sean. Good job, guys. So a couple of things I did want to point out. One of the handouts that I have put up there is a multi-page brochure here for Trimble Field Link, since that's the software that Sean was covering. It also walks through a little bit of the gear and talks a little bit about Trimble Field Points, which we'll have an upcoming webinar diving deeper into Trimble Field Points as well. Go through any questions. I know we had one that popped up that was answered during Sean's presentation. If anybody's got any questions you want to ask, please don't be shy. Feel free to throw those out there. We'll try to answer them. We've got a little bit of time yet. First of all, too, let me say, Kevin and Sean, good job on timing today, guys. It's fantastic. Every time we practice, we went about 30 minutes over, but you've heard Kevin talk, so you can understand where that went. Anyway, did want to say thank you all very much. Again, we've got our upcoming webinar. The next one is next Friday, April 17th, same time frame as this one. We're going to be diving into the Surface module as well as going a much deeper dive into advanced reporting. So we're going to dive in, talk a lot more about the deviation reports and the field layout summaries. Kevin, did you have something to add there?
Yes. Before we get too far down this closing path here, without questions, and we can always entertain the questions, but I wanted to promote Trimble Dimensions. And I'll let you kind of hit on that if you want to, Corey, but that's a big deal coming up in our territory in Nashville this year, so it's going to be very close to home. Yeah, I'll hit on that. So it's going to be coming up the end of the year, fourth quarter. Trimble Dimensions will be held at the Gaylord in Nashville, so Opryland in Nashville. So be looking to that one. Sean, did you have something to add there?
Yeah, I do. One thing I skipped over that I was supposed to hit on is in Trimble Field Link Office, it allows you to pull in PDFs and set scale and rotation and things like that. So Trimble Field Link Office actually gives you some maneuver capabilities that the tablet doesn't have. It's just something I have on my notes I was supposed to hit and I kind of skipped over. So just wanted to get that in. Thank you.
I also wanted to add one thing that us and Trimble have stepped up on is for any of you that have Trimble Field Points or Trimble Field Link Office today, and you have those on a network version in your network office back in the head shed, and you're off working remote now, if you're on a laptop or whatever because of COVID-19 or coronavirus or whatever the heck we're calling it this week, just understand that Trimble will extend your license and give you an extra 30 days or so as kind of a sample piece out there that you can keep working while you're working remotely and you don't have to be on your network. So if you're working on a network now and you're working from a home internet like I would be normally, it's a little bit slower, especially if you're like me and you're competing with your kids' Wi-Fi while they're on Zoom classes. So outside of that, I haven't seen any other questions roll in. So I guess that means Sean did a really good job. But I know you've all got more questions. As they come up, feel free to let us know. Our contact information is out there. We're going to have more upcoming webinars. Our next one, like I said, is going to be a deeper dive into the surface module and advanced reporting. So without any further ado, I want to thank you all for your time. I hope you all have a blessed Easter. Enjoy this weekend, and that's it. We look forward to seeing you all next week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and have a good day.